So it seems like last week's video was pretty spot on. A verdict in the Apple versus Epic Games showdown has been made, and it doesn't seem like either side is particularly happy. It has been a long time coming, but frankly, while neither of the two main parties involved got exactly what they wanted, we, the customer base, can rejoice because this might just be the best case scenario for us. There is definitely still a possibility that it's going to be appealed to a higher court, but meanwhile, let's rejoice. This is Techonomics. Hey guys, it's Carlos, always trying to provide you with an insight on technology and how it's affecting you and the world at large. Let's be clear, this isn't the end-all be-all. That said, let's dive in to understand what the decision was, why it was made, and what the repercussions are going to be. So let's get some context to get started. Let's dive right into it, and I apologize, there's probably going to be some repetition from last week's video. So what on God's green earth is this whole Apple versus Epic lawsuit anyway? Well, to understand that, we need to understand Apple's App Store policies. According to their terms of service, if you want to put an app onto Apple's App Store, you have to give Apple 30% of all revenue made through purchases through that app. But they're not only limited in payments, they're not even able to notify or communicate with users through the app, letting them know that they can get a cheaper price on the website. And it's obvious why it's going to be cheaper because they don't have to give Apple their 30% cut, making the cost of it that much less. It should also be stated that last year Apple made it so that the cut that they take is only 15% for the companies that make less than $1 million per year through Apple's App Store. Of course, Epic Games with Fortnite is not one of those companies. Knowing full well all of these different contractual agreements, Epic Games out of nowhere decided to change their payment processing inside the Fortnite iOS app. Specifically, they offered the option to both pay with or without the Apple tax. As you can imagine, no one wanted to pay Apple's 30% because it made the same product more expensive. But obviously, offering it in the first place was explicitly against Apple's terms of service, leading to Fortnite being removed from Apple's App Store. Epic then counterpunched by starting a whole ad campaign about how abusive Apple has been to its developers, a major part of which was a riff off of Apple's own 1984 ad, obviously aimed at invoking the irony of Apple changing its positions over the years. But along with the ads, they sued Apple for monopoly and anti-competitive practices. Not wanting to be outdone, Apple countersued Epic Games for breaking their contract and getting the 30% that they were owed from the money that was made on the Fortnite iOS app while using the unauthorized payment system. But all this happened in 2020. Now, just over a year later, we have a conclusion to this clash of titans, along with some admittedly hilarious dialogue in the court about the importance of having a virtual banana wear clothes. On September 10th, 2021, the judge finally issued their verdict on the Apple versus Epic Games case. There were a bunch of different provisions, but there were three parts that are honestly the most important. First, the judge determined that Apple is in fact not a monopoly. There are obviously a variety of different schools of thought when it comes to this, but regardless of where your opinions lie, this specific judge has made its determination. Second, Epic Games did breach its contractual agreement with Apple. As a result, they have to give Apple 30% of all of its in-app purchase revenue made through the Fortnite iOS app during the time it was up on the iOS App Store using an unauthorized payment system. Lastly, and probably the most important, was that the judge ruled that Apple violated California law against its anti-competitive practices. Specifically, they did so by not allowing app developers to be able to work around the 30% through links and notifications to users. Because of this, the judge ordered that Apple had to change its policies. So now for the big question. Why does this matter and how will this affect us going forward? Well, let's go through each of them and look at the possible side effects. Since Apple is not a monopoly, they won't be broken up and there won't be any substantive changes in any of their business model. On the bright side, that means there won't be massive waves across the industry, which can be seen as a good thing because abrupt changes tend to be bad for business and innovation across the industry. On the downside, however, that means that any business practices that Apple currently implements that one might consider to be abusive won't be shut down outright. For example, while there still will be changes to the App Store policies, they can still take a 30% cut of everything made through the app, which is very unlike the law that just passed in South Korea that totally banned this restrictive rule of only allowing their payment option, which in turn gets rid of the 30% if it goes through any other payment option. As for Epic Games having to pay Apple back, frankly, it isn't a big deal. They made tons of money from Fortnite, so they really didn't lose much, and it's obviously that they knew exactly what they were doing when they broke the rule. The last bit is definitely the most important part. The fact that the judge ruled that Apple violated anti-competitive practices is a big deal. Forcing Apple to change their policies affects all developers of iOS apps, and not only that, it will probably affect app developers for all the other app stores as well. And allowing these developers to circumvent Apple's obscene 30% tax on in-app purchases is transformative because it allows these same developers to keep more of the money that they earned. And when we're talking about millions of developers from all around the world, it is undeniably a good thing. It will create more of an incentive for developers to make apps because they know that they can keep their money. It also has a massive benefits to consumers because they're going to be able to pay less for in-app purchases compared to what they were paying before. One major criticism that I've heard is that Apple does have a lot of costs regarding to maintaining its servers, security, and all of the infrastructure bit. I don't find that argument to be particularly persuasive because Apple already asks for a certain amount of money to have the app in the App Store. While it is obviously not that much money, you can always increase it if it's absolutely necessary to break even. And even if you did need some percentage of money from in-app purchases, the $60+ billion that they get every year seems way more than necessary for the upkeep of infrastructure. And that's even taking into consideration that they should be able to take a bit of the profit off the top. While they did have every right to do so, it is without a doubt an abusive business practice. In a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that this is great because devs and consumers benefit. Period. The biggest takeaway though is that it seems like the courts are finally starting to move away from the likes of Apple and big tech. The walls seem to be closing in, and I think it's probably an indicator that the courts are fed up with Apple, Google, Amazon, and the like abusing their power to mess with the little guy. And when you have big moves like the new law in South Korea or Japan investigating Apple's business practices, I think big tech is in for a rude awakening, which does seem to be to the benefit of developers, users, and consumers all around the world. Hey guys, thanks for watching another video. Please smash that like button. It's always very much appreciated. Also, comment down below with your thoughts on the result of the Epic versus Apple saga. Do you think Apple should have been hit harder? Should Epic have had to be forced to pay their percentage to Apple? Look forward to hearing your responses. It's Carlos from Techonomics, over and out.